everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ref Bump. My name is Codd Sinclair, along for the ride, as always. Ride or die. My number two is Jeff the Hitman Hall. Jeff, how's it going?
It is going well, brother. How about yourself?
Good. I know it's been a while. It's been a hot minute since we've jumped back into this. Uh,
Yes.
a lot of great wrestling has happened since then. Um, but thankfully, with all these great wrestling promotions that we have available to us today, none are going under. Just like who hosted today's show we're going to review. It is WCW Greed 2001. It's taking place from the Jacksonville Memorial Coliseum in Jacksonville, Florida. Um, this actually was to replace the uncensored line of pay-per-view events, which I was highly upset about. Um, so so this was the last pay-per-view of World Championship Wrestling before they were absorbed by the World Wrestling Federation. And at the time, the sale was already done. It went through. Um, so this was uh, this was days before the last episode of Thunder, and then two more Nitros, and that was it. So they were essentially expecting to hit the reset button after this and do something called the Big Bang, which if you listen to Eric Bischoff's 83 Weeks, that is essentially what it is, just hitting the reset button, starting over. But that was not to come to fruition. What do you remember, Jeff, about the last days and weeks, and I guess the entirety of 2001? I guess the dying days of WCW.
So I'll say this. One, going back and watching this pay-per-view, I actually enjoyed it for probably all the wrong reasons, but I guess I'll get into that later. But yeah, so the dying days, I guess as a fan, well, I know at least at least when I was in my youth in my youths watching this stuff, I didn't know it was necessary. I mean, my dad had told me, and like we kind of knew, like, but back in those days, dirt sheets were kind of just now coming around, or slash the internet. So there was rumblings, but I just remember it getting kind of not wild, but it was already wild, but I don't know, off the rails, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly, it's hard for WCW to outdo itself, but you could kind of tell that like everybody was trying to get their last little 5 minutes on television, and like you said, in the last 9 days.
Yeah, and that was what I think I remember the most, is that for the entirety of 2001, and I reviewed the main event of last month's show on Quick Count. But the main event was tremendously overbooked, and Ric Flair running around in charge of everything, and so the main heel stable right now is the Magnificent Seven. Holy smokes! It was just an amalgamation of guys that you were told were bad guys. Just bad guys doing bad guy things.
This pay-per-view, I mean, it really, for as much as we're probably going to just put a stick a fork in it, I mean, it's really a who's who, to be honest with you, though. Like, I mean, it has everybody on it, whether they're wrestling in some facet or backstage. I mean, we got Booker T, we got Flair, we have everybody, Luger, we got everybody, Dusty, Burritos, we got it all.
Yeah, you name them and they're on here.
Yeah, in some shape or form.
Yeah. But as far as us going through this show, we'll come to find out pretty quickly that they were not that they were still giving off the appearance that there was more to come from WCW. Um, it was very strange, I guess, over the last like 2 weeks of WCW, how they tried to end certain storylines and try and wrap them up really quick and pump the brakes on these really quick. I mean, I guess it didn't matter in the end because they were bought anyway, but it was just very odd, and we'll get to some as we go through here. Um, uh, but the opening video package is focused on Diamond Dallas Page versus Scott Steiner. That will be our main event for the evening. Boy, can't wait for that. Shivani, Scott Hudson on commentary. We get an unscheduled match.
Sorry, Codd right at the gate with the heat.
Scott Steiner. I don't know. So yeah, this is an unscheduled match. It is Jason Jett versus Kiwi. It was a fine match for what it was. I think they got more time, I guess, than I thought I was expecting them to get because there was no build for this.
I noticed that as well, and I also thought that again. I am a mark, but I'm not one of these marks out here that like wants to be a booker or an actual wrestler. No, I just love wrestling, and that's just who I am. But watching it as long as I have, I got that something went wrong. Like something obviously was supposed to happen, or was supposed to go for an extra whatever, or because this match, there's no way they went into this thing saying like, oh well, we're gonna have this match. No, I honestly do think this was like on the fly, like, hey, get out there and give us whatever while we figure I don't know, whatever out. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, 100%. And it's never really explained further. And I guess we only had a couple more shows to tie it up. But I enjoyed this match for what it was. They used the time they got well, even though like I said, they got more time than I thought they were going to get. The crowd was giving it to them hard at one point. And I really didn't understand it. The only thing that took me out of this match is that there was nothing going for it. It was just two guys in a ring, just, hey, these are the spots we're gonna hit, and that's not terrible, but it doesn't give you anything to invest in.
Well, obviously, in hindsight, looking back on it, wasn't great. But like you said, the fans were in this thing for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but maybe because it was early. I don't know, but they were in this match for what it's worth.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars out of 5. It was like we both already said, the crowd was definitely invested in it. Fast paced, good offense. It just seemed like it didn't give me anything to invest in. So
yeah.
What did you give it?
I gave it 2 just because it was super impromptu and there was some, well, I don't want to say shenanigans, but Kiwi was there was a lot of outside. I don't know. Looked like he was just doing stuff to do stuff, which I guess is fine. Again, they probably said go out there and get over for 20 minutes, but 15 minutes. But so it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, I guess I gave it the benefit of the doubt because it exceeded expectations.
Well, and that's very fair, Codd. That's very fair.
Yeah. So up next, we get the WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Championship Tournament Finals. Who in the world thought this was a good idea? God. So we have Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio Jr. taking on Prime Time Elix Skipper and Kid Romeo. I have been very vocal about the addition of recent tag team titles to some current brands of today. And I won't go into that because I've ranted enough about it. But my main gripe with adding more tag team championships is you have to make sure you have the depth of roster to be able to field a handful of teams, I guess, to be able to make your titles credible. And I'll give WCW credit where credit's due. The one thing they had and that they've always had is a deep cruiserweight division.
Yeah, I agree. Their cruiserweight really was the heart and soul of this whole damn operation. You
Mhm.
know, from WCW, from maybe not from the early days. Well, no, yeah, I'd even say early days. I mean, the early days, you had your old school guys, Wyndham and all them, and I mean that was classic. Like, you know, if there's a golden era WCW, that's a golden era WCW. But when they kind of made the shift into also like their attitude era slash edgier stuff, yeah, the cruiserweights were it. That was your meat and potatoes of this whole operation. So, and this, I mean, the match, and I mean, it was good. I mean, all these guys can wrestle. So, I mean, you might not like the dancing and the outfits. Leave them alone. It's 2001, but you know, I mean, this was a really good match, and this was exactly what you thought. Well, exactly what I thought it was going to be. Oh, Kid Romeo, I hadn't seen in. That's a name I hadn't heard of in years. But yeah, this was good stuff. If you ask me, and I'm not surprised because, like you said, it's a cruiserweight.
Yeah. It was definitely something that I totally forgot happened. Uh, the cruiserweight tag team championships. Um, so so obviously going into this, even if you knew what was going on between WCW WWF as far as the sale goes, um, they're still selling this like we're gonna keep these titles, we're gonna run it to the end, and I give them credit for that. And then the fact that they just let these four guys go, this was a great match, I think. Kidman and Mysterio have always worked well together. I don't think I've seen a terrible Elix Skipper match. Um, he had some clunky ones in TNA, um, but nothing terrible. So he's a competent worker.
Yeah.
But I mean this was just from start to finish. It was big. It was big flippy moves. Just fast paced. Um, we do try to get an Asai moonsault from Rey Mysterio. Kid Romeo catches him and hits the last kiss, and they get the win, and they are the inaugural and final WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Champions. I've got this at a 3.5 star out of 5. I loved it for what it was. Um, it was missing something for me, and it could be that because I'm already jaded by the fact that you know the writing was on the wall, as you could say. But I thoroughly enjoyed this match. Didn't tell much of a story. It was just a tournament final. But yeah, what do you have?
So looking back through the lens that we have now of AEW and like just other wrestlings in general with spots and spots and spots and spots. This was a prime example of like there's nothing wrong with doing spots when they're organic, you know? Like obviously, they're gonna be spots in this match because all four of these guys can work their asses off, but I didn't see as much of the like, okay, well, I need to be here at this spot at this time for this spot.
Mhm.
Or I have to hurry up and jump over this rope and get to this corner because this spot's coming up. It was really, really organic. And I enjoyed it a lot. And like you said, I mean, I was watching this through, like you said, through jaded glasses thinking, well, is there a correct way to do this knowing you're going out of business in 2 weeks? Probably not. Because if they do it one way, we're probably going to kill them. If they do it the other way, we're probably going to kill them. So by just having, like you said, having these guys go out there and do their thing, it was fine. And at the end, you got a little dance break too.
Only only
Can't
three
forget
count.
that guy.
You know what? It brought back some 3 count tank Tank Abbott flashbacks for me.
Yeah.
So we get a strange cutaway kind of. So Buff Bagwell has a camera and he's trying to film, I guess, a documentary for the Magnificent Seven, and then Scott Steiner's in a separate dressing room than the rest.
I also need someone to explain to me how that shower bar held him up while he was doing pull-ups. I just need that. I don't know if he's. I mean, I know you saw that, Codd, but like I was looking like, there's no way.
Yeah. Next match is Bam Bam Bigelow in 2001 taking on Sean Stasiak, being accompanied by Stacy Keibler. They get some promo time to put over the Sean and Stacy show.
Yeah. Again, if I could just cut in here.
Do it.
You got Dustin Rhodes, you got Dusty Rhodes, you got Road Warrior Animal, you got Stasiak, you got Keibler, you got Palumbo, you got Luger, you got Bagwell, Mysterio. I'm sure I'm missing Helms. I mean, this pay-per-view just had everything you could possibly want from a star standpoint, at least.
Yeah, so this I couldn't get into this match. Bigelow was in control for most of it, and then towards the end, Bam Bam going to the top to end it. Stasiak gets hairspray.
Hairspray.
Yeah. I thought at first it was Mason. And I was like, well, it's not. It's going to be the hairspray. He uses that. He hits a neck breaker, and gets the pin. It was under six minutes, and it was 5 minutes too long. I gave it no stars out of 5. This was a waste of my time. You know what? It's a half star. Screw it.
That's what I gave it, half star.
Yeah, it was
because Bigelow wasn't terrible. To be fair,
I have it written down as no stars, and the main gripe for me, shoot your shot on here, do your promo, do what you're gonna do, but coming off the high of the first 2 matches, and obviously great fast-paced matches, and then this, it was just weird. We get another weird cutaway with Ela Skipper and Kid Romeo where they put the titles on each other, and then that was kind of it. It was weird.
Yeah.
So then just standard old regular tag team match. We get Humorous and Conan taking on Team Canada, which is Lance Storm and Mike Awesome. One of these teams is not like the other, as you would say.
One of these teams is a temple of wrestling.
Yeah.
And the other is, I don't know, chopped liver.
Yeah. The big sore spot for me here was honestly Conan. He is beyond the point of giving any cares at all. A lot of no selling. Did you get vibe?
Yeah, and it's a shame. Because to be fair, I mean, Conan, I mean, he really is a good worker when he's interested in, like, I noticed that this whole show, in the sense of, like, I mean, some guys are just like, well, what's going to happen? If I like, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to do whatever I want, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, because guess what? We're out of here anyway in 2 weeks, So I think some of that started to creep into some of these guys. But yeah, Conan, I mean, he just couldn't wait to be finished with this match. He just couldn't wait.
Yeah, he was ready to go back to the moon, Max Moon. This match was fine for what it was. I gave it a star and a half out of 5. I really love the point that we get Lance Storm and Mike Awesome as a tag team.
Yeah.
I wish some of the things, and I'll get to it at the very end also, but more of the WCW angles and storylines and teams carried over to WWF. And I know there was already a lot going on, and we had to rush the invasion storyline, but I mean, they could have done better for those two guys in the
Yeah.
long run. But yeah, it was fine for what it was. Hugh Morris hits the moonsault, but he gets cut off, and then he gets an awesome bomb for the win. But I still gave it 1.5 stars.
Yeah, I probably give it a star. It was rough.
I know this was your favorite segment that we're going to talk about next. So we get Dusty Rhodes eating burritos.
250 to be exact.
Yeah, 250. And I guess it was a fat joke because I don't know why we have to mention the number. I don't know why he can't just be eating a plate of burritos or eating any other I don't get it. I mean, I get
neither.
it, but I don't.
Yeah. I mean, this is typical 2001 shtick / WCW stick, but I'll tell you this, man. Dusty Rhodes is, and Dustin too, but Dusty Rhodes, even when we get into his match later, like, yeah, it's whatever, but he's just so good at what he does. I mean, he's just one of the greatest to ever do it. And the crowd, well, I don't want to skip. Okay, well, we'll get there when we get there. But
the one thing I will say about Dusty Rhodes, one of the greatest of all time, can do anything you tell him to do. I really view him as kind of like the Michael Caine of professional wrestling. Michael Caine in his film career did a lot of terrible movies, and he would be the one that would coin them paycheck films, because he would go in just for the check and then get out. He did Jaws. I think he did Jaws 4. He did one of the Jaws sequels, and he literally said, "I did this just so I could pay for my boat."
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, hey, you get your money.
Get your money, and that's exactly. And Michael Caine's an incredible actor. He's one of the legendary actors. So in that regard, I compare him to Dusty Rhodes, where in 2001 you have him eating burritos, and not too long after you would have him in NWA TNA, and it's for another day. I can't do it today. Then we have Buff Bagwell and Rick Steiner as the next backstage segment, talking about there's a lot of rambling and quick talking, but it was about Rick Steiner's match later in the night against Booker T, and then where Scott's head is at the moment, and then a third backstage segment in a row, and it's just Palumbo and O'Haire just hyping up their match, and it's like, why do we need to have this? Why do we need to do this?
Yeah, they weren't terrible, but it's just like you said. If we actually timed it, I mean, there has to be at least, I mean, almost 30 minutes of maybe 40, 45 tops of promos and not angles, but just weird cutaways.
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's very interesting. Like I said, no, I don't know if they just I mean, it's WCW, so who the hell knows what they were thinking? But
But the three backstage cutaway things lead us to the WCW Cruiserweight Championship match between the defending champion Chavo Guerrero Jr. taking on Shane Helms. Um, I thought this was another solid match. The Cruiserweight division, like you said earlier, was the highlight of WCW, and I think to their dying days they were. They were
yeah,
the heartbeat of WCW, and that was aside from the other big names that they had. Um, Shane Helms here, you watch him here, and you think this dude is going to be a star.
yeah, he looks like $1 million. His work has always been great, so no
Yeah,
knock on that. Even when he came out, I mean, his little dance thing was kind of cheesy, but he still looked he still looked the part. Like looking back, we can laugh and say it's cheesy, knowing that he's ends up being Hurricane Helms. But like you said, you can still see that this guy has slash had potential to be a top guy.
yeah, and it was unfortunate that you know it took WWF into the WWE years to figure out, maybe we shouldn't, make him into a huge superhero joke, you know,
Yeah,
and that's no knock on, the Hurricane gimmick because obviously it's one of the better done
yeah,
um, comedy acts within professional wrestling.
yes, I agree.
Obviously, to the point where just at this past year's Royal Rumble, they brought him back.
Yeah. Well, nowadays people don't understand with Orange Cassidy and just comedy wrestling in general. Like he's funny, but he's serious. Like there has to be I don't know, it's hard to explain. Idea. He he can't be uh um he can't be I don't know, it's hard to explain. Codd, you know what I'm saying? Like your gimmick, you can't be into your own gimmick. Like you have to be serious, if you will, to
Yeah.
some extent.
No, I get it. And if you don't take yourself seriously, then who's going to?
Yeah.
You have to put into your gimmick what you want to get out of it.
Yep.
Um, this is a solid match. I still think that Nightmare on Helm Street is one of the best named finishers of all time.
Yep.
Like, uh, um, that did get a huge pop though.
Yeah.
In the back end of the match, and I was like, "Oh snap! This is gonna end early." Um, but Chavo going for a vertebreaker. Helms counters into one of his own and wins here. He wins his first WCW Cruiserweight Championship. He would go on to WWF and E to win a handful more. I have this at another 3.5 count, or sorry, 3.5 stars out of 5. Um, yeah, it was a solid match. They told a solid story. Um, eh, some spots didn't get it, as well as I wanted it to, but um, that could be Chavo also just playing up to his heel character.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this.
I had it at 3 stars. Again, I enjoyed it as well. It was really, really good. And I think Chavo is also kind of underrated in this whole for him being a cruiserweight lifetimer. He's never really, like I think there's something to be said about a guy who doesn't necessarily want to leave the cruiserweight, who doesn't have a problem with hey, this is my deal. I enjoy it. I don't mind being here. I don't work my ass off. Even all the way his WWE stuff, and even later in life, all of his stuff in Lucha Underground was really, really good as well. So yeah, great match.
I don't know if you've seen Talking Shop Mania 2 yet.
I have not.
Chavo Guerrero, spoiler alert, Chavo Guerrero kills a man. So that's probably why you haven't seen him in a hot minute. But I completely agree. Chavo will do. Chavo does the things that he does because he enjoys it, and you can
Yeah.
tell. Even when I did the even when I did the Road Wild review miles back, it seems like, and it was the feud between him and Stevie Ray over the United States Championship, and he was out with his, toy horse Pepe, and it was
Yeah.
horse on a stick, and he sold the ever loving gravy out of that thing, and it was funny, and that's another example of you put into your gimmick what you want to get out of it, and he enjoys it.
Yeah, I agree.
So then in the back, we get a Ric Flair segment um, about being in better shape than Dusty Rhodes. Okay.
Because that's saying a lot.
Yeah, that's I mean that's never been Dusty's bag. So I mean I don't really know what's
Yeah.
doing that is gonna.
Get in line. You and everybody else.
Yeah. Um, Booker T cuts a promo then about coming for the United States Championship. He has his catchphrase here that he's been using for a hot minute. It's just awful. Don't hate the player, hate the game. And
I mean,
every time he said it was just more cringeworthy.
words to live by.
Uh, you ready? You ready for this one?
I'm ready to go.
Oh boy. We have the natural born thrillers who are the current WCW World Tag Team Champions taking on Totally Buff. That is Buff Bagwell and Lex Luger. This is a squash match.
We're gonna get a email or a letter from Lex Luger's attorney at some point on this show. I just feel it coming. For as much for mudslinging, for slander, for just about anything at this point.
It's definitely going to be for slander because we have yet to watch a good Lex Luger match on here.
You know why? Because it doesn't exist. Man. Oh, Lex.
Jesus. But no, this is 100% a glorified squash match. Totally Buff come out, cut a promo, just talking trash about natural born thrillers being rookies. They both come down to the ring. They mean business. It was 54 seconds, and this is honestly the best Lex Luger match we've watched on this show because it lasted for 54 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's got to be the cutest of Ugly Town, but yeah. I mean, if less Lex Luger, please and thank you.
I'll give it a half star for that. I had it at 0, but reminding me that this is the best Lex Luger match you've seen on this show, I'm giving it a half star. Thanks,
Yeah,
the Lord.
I'm with you. Put him over half star.
And just as you think it can't get any worse, we get a match between Canyon and Ernest the Cat Miller with Miss Jones. Yeah, very, very interesting. I don't really know.
I do love. Go ahead.
Just a real quick, no, you can take this. This Miss Jones, she was former Nitro Girl Chameleon. I had to do a lot of research to get that, so you're welcome.
I mean, I knew she was a Nitro girl. I didn't know that they. I mean, I guess they all have names. I shouldn't be that way, but the fact that you found that is amazing.
Canyon also kind of to cut the wound deep would call her Champagne instead of Chameleon. So just a typical Canyon X thing. What do you got for this one? What's your take on it?
I mean, this one's kind of all over the place. It's the ballad of Ernest the Cat Miller, who was really, really good, and I'll have like a beautiful, serious match, and then turn right around and have I don't know. He was really hot or cold, Like he could be funny, and he's a really good worker, and he really was was a legit martial artist. So, so he had like all that in his bag. Then he could be really funny as well, which is fine. But then you start going too far that way, and then you get into the woods like we are now. And Canyon is another another uh, favorite of mine. A guy that I love, and he's a really good worker as well. And I think he's underrated in WCW. I think they missed a boat on maybe doing more with him. Not named Mortis, but yeah,
the Mortis. I was gonna say,
yeah. Which when I was younger, I mean, I'm still I was all in on Mortis. Like, for whatever reason, in my brain at the time, I mean, Glacier was just absolutely stupid to me. But if you just said something about Mortis, I'd have fought you to the death. So I know that doesn't make any sense, but that's just where I was.
Yeah. No, I recently watched. I forget if it was Uncensored 96 or 97, but it was Mortis versus Glacier in a martial arts match, which there wasn't like a stipulation to it. They just said it was a martial arts match, just for WCW's sake to put a name on it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I forgot how excellent Mortis's theme was. For all the green smoke and lighting, and then he had James Vandenberg as his as a manager, which I thought was great. I feel like they could have done way more with that, because Canyon is one of the most underrated wrestlers in pretty much WCW in general. He was doing moves in ring that we didn't see for years before a bigger name did them and put something put a name on it. I feel like that's why he stuck around, and he did the whole DDP shtick for a hot minute there, but I don't care about this match at all. I cared about Canyon, and even then, it seemed like he was checked out.
Canyon?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did, and again, it's a shame because his work is great, but like we touched on earlier, I think some of the guys were like, "Well, hell, I'm out of here anyway." And I would assume too, you got to think some of the guys probably already had contracts. You know what I'm saying? Like everything lined up anyway to go. I'm sure some of the guys were Vince had already talked to and were ready, this, that, and the other.
Yeah. I literally thought this was a 15-minute match. It was just over 10, but it felt extremely long. I was exhausted at the end of this because there was a false finish in the middle. Canyon gets a roll up, but he puts his feet on the ropes. Gets the win, but then it gets waved off. The girl Champagne kicks Cat. Everybody just kind of lumbering around, and it's like, can we just get to the dang finish? Because
it was. It looked like two guys that just didn't want to be there.
Yeah. I gave
that shows
no stars at all. No stars.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's nothing. Even post match, Canyon's putting the beat down on the Cat, and then we get a save by M.I. Smooth, also Ice Train. Excuse me, but I'm gonna take a second here. The old Ice Train theme. No pun intended here. It's fire. Like,
it's definitely on the level of Too Cold Scorpio. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are you ready for this one?
Let's roll into it.
I feel like we started off so well, and it's getting progressively more awful.
I mean, that sounds like a WCW pay-per-view.
WCW United States Championship on the line. Rick Steiner defending against Booker T. it's a shame because sitting here after this match, and you think about the push that Rick Steiner's gotten in the last 15 to 16 months, since the turn of the century, and um, you almost wish that the push that Rick Steiner's getting now, he got a handful of years back when he could actually do things in the ring.
Yeah, Rick is underrated, and I mean, I think I understand why, because he's just not as flashy as Scott. You know what I'm saying? Like, as personality wise, but he's just as good as a wrestler. And again, if I tell you like, hey, you're gonna see Rick Steiner versus Booker T, you're like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean,
What
yeah,
you
that. Well, on its head, you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like, that's gonna be a good match. Is it?
I hated this match.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. It was almost an insult to not our intelligence, but you watch it and you're like, well, we know you two guys can do way better than this.
Yeah, and
You're top guys who have been in top spots for a long time, been doing this a long time, and I get sometimes things just don't click, but it wasn't that. It was I don't know, like that giant funk or that cloud of we don't really care was over this pay-per-view terribly.
Yeah, you could tell just by Rick Steiner's offense and the way he moved in the ring. It was either he didn't care or he just couldn't go anymore, or it was some crazy amalgamation of the two.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of brawling, a lot of rest holds.
Booker seemed like he was trying. Booker seemed like he was trying to save it, but I mean, if it's a one-man show, then there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. There's only so much you can do here. We get a ref bump. Nobody from Magnificent Seven comes out to get involved, but instead we get the franchise. Shane Douglas.
I, another name to throw in this pay-per-view, and again, I get heat for this all the time, but I'm a franchise guy. I'm a Shane Douglas guy.
I knew that was going to pop you as soon as I saw it.
He's the only good thing from Pittsburgh.
Wow. Okay, we'll get into that later. He runs in through the crowd, I should say. Hits Rick with his cast. Booker hitting the bookend, not the rock bottom, to win the United States Championship here. I gave it a half a star, solely for the effort that Booker T was trying, because you could tell Rick Steiner wasn't there.
I gave it a star for Booker T doing his thing, and then you got Shane Douglas / Cowboy Bob Orton coming out there doing his thing as well.
So this next match, it is the last match before the main event. It is Dustin and Dusty Rhodes taking on Jeff Jarrett and Ric Flair, where the loser must kiss the winner's butt, or the way that. So this is essentially the way they're billing it. They're billing it as kiss my ass match, and they make note that it is a kiss my ass match, because we'll get to that at the end. So it was fine.
Okay, well,
go ahead.
Why is Ric Flair in slacks and a Hawaiian shirt and dress shoes?
He didn't care.
Like, you're right. I mean, I know why. Like, well, I'm just gonna wear this to the damn show and do my match and go back, and like I get it, but just I don't know. I guess everybody checked out. Dusty was great in this, and the crowd was behind him so much.
Dead hot.
Yeah, because it's Dusty, and again, like I said, I mean, he can do no wrong. He just can't. And Dustin Rhodes too is such a good worker. God, he's such a good worker.
Yeah, even at this phase where you could tell he was a little out of shape.
Well, you could tell he
Spots.
didn't really love wrestling at
Yeah,
this point, you know.
yeah, he was in a real tough spot. I think personally, um, it wouldn't get any better, but still putting in the work here, I think. And the hot tag towards the end of the match where we get Dusty. Um, this was the loudest pop of the night.
Yeah.
And just Dusty doing Dusty things.
And Dusty, like a true professional, like the legend he is, comes in and does his thing and get the crowds with him, and he milks it. This is a skill that a lot of people don't have nowadays because of modern wrestling, but he milks it, but just enough where it's absolutely perfect because he can feel it. He's Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah. Cut to the end. It's an ugly roll up, but Dustin pins Ric Flair. Just a hair under 10 minutes. I gave it 2.5 stars. It was what you expected, but it was more entertaining, I think, than you may have thought it was going to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fair. Again, this. I mean, I love me some Double J too, but Flair he just killed it for me. Like, it was the Hawaiian shirt and the slacks. Like, man, it just wasn't right. Damn it.
Oh, all right. So post match, yeah, it was what it was.
Yep.
Won't get into that really. All right, main event time. Falls count anywhere match. I'm gonna stop right there. Every main event that Scott Steiner has been in, where he's been the world heavyweight champion or has been competing for the world heavyweight championship, has been either a no disqualification match or a false count anywhere match. Now, why do you think that is?
Well, it's the same reason John Moxley's is the same way. Um, I mean, you know why?
Yeah.
Again, younger Scott Steiner, freaking nature. Well, he's still a freaking nature, but wrestling freaking nature. This new Scott Steiner, he believed his gimmick. He lived it, whether he was in the ring, out the ring. So that's why. But I will say this though, Codd, I do enjoy this. Well, I guess he's always heel, but I do enjoy this Scott Steiner as champion, though. I do. Um, Not forever, like I'm not saying he should be going on a run where he has the belt for a year, 6 months, but just this different type of he's not chicken shit. He's ripped and he's a heel and he has edge to him. I kind of enjoyed it a little bit. It was a little bit different than what they had been doing with their heel champions.
Yeah. So I'll pick up where I left off. The matches for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Scott Steiner, the current champion, being accompanied by Madeja, taking on DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, master of the Diamond Cutter, who has now passed it on to QT Marshall. Anyway,
He was over when he came out too. He was over.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, um, the I forgot about this match, but watching it again, you thought that DDP was going to win.
Yeah, you did. The match itself wasn't necessarily great, but at that point, there's a point where he has him in like the camel clutch, and he's on his back, and he's putting his arm down, and DDP's he's just pouring blood.
Oh, yeah.
That's good stuff right there. That's people getting. But the match wasn't the greatest, but if you can get caught up in the work, then somebody's doing their job.
Yeah. I'll back up a little bit from that spot. DDP hits the Diamond Cutter. Rick Steiner shows up out of nowhere, pulls the referee out.
Does he ever?
Huh?
Does he ever? He sent that damn ref flying.
Yeah. DDP gets hit in the head with the title, and like you said, just pouring blood. Um, then we get Scott Steiner gets the pipe, hits DDP with it, puts on the Steiner recliner, wins again. Um, you know what? This is going to be shocking. I'm giving this three stars out of 5. This
Poor,
was
the poor man can't even say it.
listen, and as much as I hate wrestling in the crowd, that's one thing I cannot stand. I hate I hate when people when we get the wrestling match pour into the crowd. It especially and this is the moment when I realized I hated it. It was Taz and Bam Bam from ECW. It was when they went through the stage. So it was the pay-per-view right after they went through the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And they start in the ring, immediately go to the outside, and then immediately into the crowd for like 4 to 5 minutes. And you just see bodies everywhere, arms flying, people in the way of the camera, people getting in the way of the wrestlers. I'm like, you don't need it. You don't need it.
It's a weird subject because you can do it, but it has to be done properly.
Okay.
Natural outside wrestling in the crowd is fine. It's when you start getting that like hand, I can't see my hand, like that hand behind the head, and they're like,
Just
I'm gonna put my
walk
hand
around.
behind your head and walk you. Like, that's what I don't like. So again, if you get out there and you guys are going through tables and you're punching them and you guys are stumbling back to or forward to someplace, cool. I'm fine with that. But the whole grabbing people by the back of their necks and they're just walking like, oh, I'm so dazed, I'm walking to this table so I can get put through it, and then I throw myself on top of it. Yeah, I agree with you, brother.
Yeah, but this was fine for me. Them going in the crowd, they didn't do too much of it. They got right back in.
Yeah, no, this one was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it seemed like Steiner was more motivated here.
Well, I think some of that is for God knows. Well, I guess he knew how long, but I mean, he had the belt on him, and he was the guy. He was the guy. I mean, if you have the belt's on you, you're the guy. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, or by hook or by crook, you're the guy. And I again, like I said, I think he was good in this spot. And I also forgot that the pipe was his staple. I forgot about that. When he whipped it, I was like, I forgot he used to just tear people to pieces with this pipe.
Well, you know how it started.
I guess refresh my memory then.
There we go. So back at WCW Sin, that's the infamous pay-per-view where Sid Vicious broke his leg. So the next night on Monday Night Nitro, he is now selling it as he broke his leg, and I shot on this super hard. Go check out my quick count video. So in the network cut of that, they show the replay like 6 or 7 times. Okay, on Nitro. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
So when you go back and watch it on the network, the actual pay per view, they kind of freeze the shot like right before. So like you see him in midair, he jumps, and then it pauses for a second, and then the next spot is him on the mat.
Yeah.
But then you go and watch the Nitro, they fully show that thing like 6 or 7 times.
That's the beauty of just, everybody, people thinking that they know everything. Oh, well, but you forgot about the Nitro though.
Yeah. But that was the whole thing. And then that would lead to his match at the next month's show against Kevin Nash. The infamous one where he wheeled himself out in the wheelchair, but he had the fake cast leg.
Yep.
I reviewed that one too, and usual shenanigans. But so that was his shtick, and he was doing it, and Scott Steiner promos thrown in there, and this is a great run for him. And then he signed with WWF, and they absolutely ruined him.
Yeah, they did. And
some people will say, if he was in better shape, he would have had a better match against Triple H at Royal Rumble. I kind of agree. Don't have him in that spot to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, you that's on them. Listen, that's on them. You had to see this guy work. You know what I'm saying? You know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
You know, again, if Scott Steiner can't cut it anymore, or he's this, he's that. That's your job to figure out what it, uh, if he can go or he can't go. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But after this match, we get the story about two brothers, Rick and Scott. They're beating up on Booker T as the show fades to black on the last WCW pay-per-view of all time. Very recently, though, WWE put in another trademark for the World Championship Wrestling moniker. So who knows what's going to come of that?
What do you mean?
They put in the trademark for World Championship Wrestling because it was lost for a little bit.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I'm surprised. And Cody didn't have it. Cody didn't.
I guess not. But it wasn't WCW. It was World Championship Wrestling.
Gotcha.
So, overall, I this show is so hot and cold for me, and I think you said earlier. But I'm giving it 3 stars out of 5, and I can't believe I'm saying it. This is way more entertaining than I thought it was gonna be. You know, there's so many WCW things on this show, and I mean that in both the positive and the negative way.
Oh yeah.
WCW at its best, booking a 10+ minute match with the Cat. The best booking they could have done the entire night was give Lex Luger a 50-some second match.
I'm gonna give this pay-per-view 4 stars.
Oh my gosh!
Just because I think you summed it up when you said, I mean, this is WCW all rolled up into one, like their booking, the way they do things, all rolled up. The star power all rolled up into one show. You know what I'm saying? And that's probably a little bit biased on also just being their last show. But yeah, I mean that this pay-per-view is the embodiment of WCW as a brand. It literally is.
Yeah, I agree. 4 stars. Oh my gosh. But you are absolutely right. This is the embodiment of what WCW was. And I think with this show being the last thing to remember, to remember them by, it was a great representation.
Yeah, that's why I'm giving it 4 stars. Again, not so much on the wrestling acumen and all that, but if you're talking one last hurrah, one big bang, yeah, I mean, what didn't it have? Good, bad, or indifferent.
They didn't have anything on a pole.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing they were missing, you know?
Yeah. But that wraps this episode of the Ref Bump up. Guys, we definitely appreciate you watching. I know it was a handful of weeks while we got some stuff together. Jeff is actually a high school football coach, and here in the state of Virginia, that kind of got pushed back to the glorious month of March. So this month's been a little exhausting for all of us, but I think I speak for both of us. This was a definite refresh for both of us. It was definitely a nice break from reality.
Absolutely.
But make sure you check out our next episode. WrestleMania is weeks away. So we're not taking our 2-week usual break like we normally would. So come check us back out next week as we review WrestleMania 20. That is WrestleMania XX For those who are into the X7, X8, X9, if you're a part of that generation, then it's XX for you.
Needs to come back, I think.
Yeah, well, they did it with 30, and I think that was a little too extreme. But
extreme.
Yeah. Guys, check out all of our social media links. It's going to be in the description box below. Jeff, where are you at on social media so they can follow you?
I am on Twitter at Jeff M Hall 1.
Jeff M Hall is taken. I assume.
I can't remember. Yeah, but it's been so long now that I would assume so.
All right. Well, guys, once again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Codd Sinclair. That is Jeff the Hitman Hall. And don't forget, the only thing that makes a good wrestling match great is a good old ref bump. We will see you next time.